All right, it is 2 o'clock. Welcome to our Reliability and Security Oversight Update. My name is Maylee Cook, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. We'll start with a few announcements. First, we have our Reliability in the West discussion series. That will be on June 4th at 11 a.m. Mountain. We have dropped the information for that in the chat, and I believe our topic will be on cybersecurity coming up this June. So be sure to check that out. Also in June is our quarterly Board of Directors and Associated meetings. That will be a hybrid approach and virtual or at our Salt Lake City offices. So be sure to pay attention and put that on your calendar. We also have coming up in August our Power Systems Security Conference, and that will be on August 12th, 13th, and 14th. And we will have topics on physical security and cybersecurity, and go ahead and follow that link to register and get your seat saved for that workshop. It'll be a great one. Our antitrust policy. All WECC meetings are conducted in accordance with the WECC antitrust policy and the NERC antitrust compliance guidelines. All participants must comply with the policy and guidelines. This meeting is public. Confidential or proprietary information should not be discussed in open session. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. By participating, you give your consent for your name, voice, image, and likeness to be included in the recording. WECC strives to ensure the information presented today is accurate and reflects the views of WECC. However, all interpretations and positions are subject to change. If you have any questions, please contact WECC's legal counsel. We love your participation on these calls. Please send any questions you have via the chat feature of WebEx to WECC meetings, or if you'd like to use the raise hand, we can unmute your line and you can ask your question aloud. We have this agenda for you here today. We'll turn the time over first. Oh, okay. We had a hand come up and down. Glad it's working. We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Fahad Ansari for our NERC and WECC happenings.
Sorry, I was just finding the mute button over there. Thank you, Maylee. With regard to this month's NERC and WECC happenings, I'll be going over some of the significant items that has recently been published or occurred. We might not have the relevant SMEs on the call today. Should you have any clarifying questions about the items going to be discussed in this session, but if you have any, then feel free to leave any questions in the chat. Are you sharing, Millie?
Yeah, we had to swap share. Yeah, you're good.
All right. So first things first, the ITCS, Interregional Transfer Capability Study, Canadian analysis, is now available on the NERC website under RAPA. NERC and the regions collectively have developed and executed this analysis in collaboration with the industry. It's a first of its kind assessment of transmission transfer capability and hourly energy margin analysis in Canada under a common set of assumptions, a common approach, consistent assumptions, and coordinated results were key elements of this analysis. The final report provides the details on the inputs, processes, key findings, and insights of this Canadian analysis. There might be several similarities between the Canadian and US system, but there are also numerous differences, and this report highlights that. So highly recommended to give it a read. NERC today posted the 2025 summer reliability assessment for the upcoming summer season. The assessment highlights the record load growth with aggregated peak demand forecasted to increase across all 23 assessment areas by 10 gigawatts, more than double the increase from 2023 to 2024. The assessment highlights the reason for this growth and how it can impact or create a strain on the grid. Going to the alerts, the IBR alerts, as mentioned at the last monthly update, based on the findings on IBR performance presented in the level 2 alert report, a level 3 alert with essential actions was identified. NERC board recently approved that level 3 essential actions to the industry. However, at this time, we are still not aware of the timeline of this alert. We know that this alert will seek to enhance technical minimum requirements, study processes, and modeling accuracy to predict and mitigate risks posed by IBR performance. But as we know more related to the timeline, we'll definitely post it either in the WECC weekly news or in the next update. With regard to CCC, the committee requests for nominations are now open. So from May 3rd, it started from May 3rd, and it'll go and it'll stay open until June 1st, 2025. The CCC is accepting nominations to fill several vacant positions. Successful candidates will serve a term beginning January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2028. Again, as a reminder, CCC is a great tool to engage with, support, and advise NERC, the ER enterprise regarding all facets of NERC compliance, monitoring, and enforcement program, the registration and certification program. Also, even if you don't intend to nominate yourself, it is highly recommended to stay in touch with CCC, dial in as much as you can based on your availability, and support the activity through your participation. Recently, as we all know, BAL for WECC 4 got approved by FERC, and based on the timing, the effective date of the standard is October 1st, 2025 this year. The ER enterprise, WECC and NERC are working towards the development of its RSAW. We don't have an exact timeline as to when we will be able to post the updated or the applicable RSAW for the standard, but just wanted to provide that update that it is still in works. Next slide. Brief updates on what has happened on the WECC side. Align implementation in BC. The self-reports and mitigation plans previously submitted in Web CDMS will migrate to Align for processing and disposition. Migration is currently scheduled to begin by the end of this month, May 28th, and expected to end by June 5th. There is also a WECC Interconnection Weekly Wildfire Update. It's a great tool, highly recommended, available on the WECC website, and a quick reminder that the quarterly updates for Oversight trends for Q2 is now available as well. That's pretty much it from my end, really. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Fahad. I'm not seeing any questions for you at this time, so we'll go ahead and move along to Curtis.
Thank you, Mealy. I appreciate that. Got 3 different topics today. We're going to start with cold weather. Today is the due date for cold weather generator data. I know this came out of a FERC order. NERC has been working on it, working with the industry on it, but there is a website that I think will be dropped in the chat if you have more more questions about it, that website has a whole lot of information. It has frequently asked questions. They have training material that's out there, and they give some pretty good ideas on some key links associated with this and the work plan associated with the cold weather data. We know that that's going to have to be updated. Currently, it's scheduled to be a yearly request for information per FERC at this point. So just be aware, today is the final day. Hopefully everybody has filled out the information. You do have until June 15th to make adjustments to that data. So just be very aware that there is an email, ecwt@nerc.net, that's available for further questions from NERC on that particular item. Hopefully the regions will get access to that information later on, and we'll provide some updates on what we've seen throughout that. I'm sure NERC has some outreach that they'll be providing on that as well. The other issue associated with cold weather are small group advisory sessions. We have some tentative dates. Be expecting an email from NERC in the next, hopefully next few days, maybe next week, on timing for that. It is going to be probably in August, just to give you a heads up. And the format is going to be very much like it has been the last couple of years. It's going to be a general session followed up by individualized sessions with entities. So that email that will be coming out from NERC will probably give you a little bit more information, how to register for those individual sessions, how to register for the overall broad session. Certainly, we've got a ERO enterprise team already behind the scenes working on some questions, working on presentations for that small group advisory session. It proved highly valuable in the past. There are some frequently asked questions out on the NERC website associated with the last two. I just want to remind people that those frequently asked questions were pertinent for that year and or that particular version of the standard. This SGAS will of course be focused on EOP 12-3. We're aiming for FERC to approve that standard in this second quarter so it can be in play possibly by 10/1. Can't guarantee that, of course. The implementation plan will be adjusted or has language to adjust to that if it's not approved during the second quarter. So look forward to that small group advisory session, and hopefully you'll be looking forward to it and get engaged. If you have, I know I've received questions, and I'm incorporating a lot of those questions in that small group advisory session, as well as trying to provide individual feedback to people right now. But a lot of great questions have come out of the industry, and I think it's highly valuable. I'm a cheap substitute for Donovan, so we're going to go to standards happenings. Donovan was unavailable to be here today, but I told him I'd step in. So we're looking at a lot of standards activities associated with an Order 901. The 2026 model validation and model verification definitions, two definitions that were put out there, ended just as recently this week. I think the draft status, both of them passed by a slim margin, I think 71 and 73% for the implementation plan and the definitions. So that's critical that folks that have IBRs take a real good look at that. Transmission planners and planning coordinators probably have to take a real good look at what those things are incorporating. For sure, 2202 ends tomorrow. So if you haven't made comments to that particular standard, again, related to 901, what's going to be happening in the modeling world, what will happen in terms of data specifications, that sort of thing. It's very key that those votes get put in by tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see what happens there, whether they pass or not. If they don't pass, of course, there's always that opportunity for another swing. Mod 33-3. I got a few more days on that next week. Ends 5/21/25. Again, and there another opportunity for modeling associated with IBRs. I think it's pretty critical that we get this right based on what's happening out there. Let's go to the next slide, please. On top of all those projects, there's a lot more that are coming down the path. So if you're involved in standards, commenting on standards and that sort of thing, there's about 8 or 9 standards here that there's going to be a lot more meetings on, since that one phase of the IBR 901 projects have passed. So a lot of different areas. SIP2 is included in my presentation. Went away. I'm not seeing it, but I can fake it. The EMT modeling associated with the IBRs as well. A lot of things that are going to be critical to ensure reliable operations. It will involve a lot of information, a lot of details. For sure, WECC is going to be involved in each one of these and be commenting associated with these standards, and we'll provide updates during this meeting on where we're at on some of those. But quite a few different projects, and there's still some more in the background that have to be approached, I'm sure. Let's go to the next slide. Locally, we've got a couple opportunities. The ballot for WECC 0142 ends today, 6 p.m. Mountain. So again, if you haven't voted and are in a ballot pool, please put forth the vote. It's the retiring of a standard. I'm just guessing we're going to get that passed. We'll see. I don't know for sure, but anytime retirements come about, generally those are pretty favorable to the industry. At least I hope they are. But that's a standard that is ending ballot today. Now, VAR 1-5 is actually an offshoot of the IBR 901. In there, WECC has a regional variance associated with generator operators. And if you go into depth into that variance, you'll see that it talks about providing schedules to generator operators that have units connected to the BES. The drafting team had several meetings, had some pretty robust conversations associated with whether or not we should change it or not, or if it was to change, what it was to change to. I happen to be on that team as well, so it was very interesting to see the context of it. But at the end of the day, we determined no change was the appropriate thing to recommend to the Standards Committee next week. So if you have any thoughts, any questions about some of that, please don't hesitate to send it to Donovan or myself for sure. But next week, you'll see some more information associated with that for the Standards Committee. The PRC 6-5 SAR, hopefully will be next week at that Standards Committee as well. Hopefully it will be accepted and a drafting team solicitation will go out. If you're on the under frequency load working group or have membership there, please consider being on that drafting team. I think it's important to get a lot of those. The drafting team consists of a lot of those particular members to really understand what's happening there. That is being considered because of some of the changes to the variants a few years ago, may have missed some opportunities there. And I think we've got a great opportunity to improve reliability with that SAR. And if we don't have any more questions, I guess we'll go to the next slide. None in the chat, correct?
We do actually have a couple questions for you.
Oh, no.
The first one is, could we just clarify again the difference in the May 15th and the June 15th date for that request?
Yeah, it's a little interesting. May 15th was the initial submission of data that was due from NERC. The NERC set that. Then they allowed a full month to update that information. So if you go to the website, it actually says NERC registered entities with a generator owner function must respond by May 15th of each year with the initial submission of data due by May 15th. Then entities will be able to amend the data submitted until June 15th. Now, I'm just guessing if you hadn't had the time, I can't speak on behalf of NERC, but if you hadn't had the time and haven't submitted, certainly there's going to be some time frame allowed, I would think, to allow you to put that in there if there is some concern there. Please don't hesitate to send questions to that ecwt@nerc.net, just in case. We had that discussion week or two ago, and I think that's why we sent some more information in our weekly email that went out. Hey, this date is coming up. Is there another question?
There is. It says, if we participated in the small group advisory sessions last year, is there value in registering for another small group advisory session this year?
I would say yes, because the significant changes associated with EOP 12-3. If you look at R1, R2, R3, not a whole lot of change, although there was R2 and R3 had a few changes. R4, R5 really didn't have any changes. R6, 7, 8, and the new R9 are new opportunities. And for sure, if you start looking at generator cold weather constraints, if you have some today, you need to go to attachment 1 in EOP 12-3 and see if they're still meet that criteria in attachment 1. And the implementation plan for EOP 12-3 indicates generator cold weather constraints that are in play for -2, but are applicable under -3, have to be submitted to the ERO enterprise within 45 days of the effective date. There's a lot of opportunity there. Personally, I think it's having the interactions, having that hats off, not auditor approach, listening to what you're doing and listening to the challenges associated with the language is important, maybe for you, but it's also important for other people who are not able to access those meetings. So please, feel free, if you have specific questions you want to ask me, I'm always open to those questions. Don't hesitate. I know I owe a particular company a pretty good selection of questions at this point. I haven't forgotten, and they know who they are. I won't say your name, Ruchi, if you're on, but was that
All
it?
right. Thank you, Curtis. I'll let you continue with your next section.
You bet. So this next one, PRC 28-1, is one of the 901 standards, and it is in effect as of 4/1/2025. But there were some questions around the implementation plan. The implementation plan used some language that was a little bit interesting, calendar year specifically, but it also split up the implementation based on a couple different caveats. So at the request of WECC NSI group, we put together a presentation, Donovan and I, and Donovan was able to present this at the group, but they felt like a wider audience, it might be just as effective or more effective to get it out to people. So going to take a little bit of time to go through the implementation plan. If we can go to the next slide. One of the key aspects of the implementation plan is the use of commercial operation. Now, commercial operation in this case is a footnote, and there actually has been some comments out there in the ether about footnotes are not enforceable. That is incorrect. Footnotes are part of the standard. Footnotes are included, reviewed, considered in compliance activities. Now, I've talked with NERC about it. They can't necessarily stop drafting teams from putting pseudo definitions in footnotes. It's happened and may continue to happen. I'd like to recommend that that doesn't happen, but in this case, commercial operation comes into play in this implementation plan. And it means the achievement of the designation, indicating the facility has received all the approvals. And it's very interesting, there is a defined term, commercial operation, but it is a WECC specific defined term for one of our standards. It is not a nationwide term. So you need to be cognizant of this, and it may change. The commercial operation may change based on who's providing that designation. So it's not consistent across the United States. I can guarantee you what it means there. Those words mean different things in different regions, different RCs, whatever, different BAs may think about it differently. But you should get a designation as a GO of commercial operation. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide is about BES IBRs. And I think this is critical that this implementation plan split some information up by the BES and non-BES, but also split the phased-in implementation up by the different requirements. So the effective date of the standard was 4/1. So that's in play for PRC 28. For R1 through R7, within 3 calendar years, which equates to 1/1/2029, January 1st, 50% of your units for those people that have more than one IBR have to be compliant with R1 through R7. Now, if you only have one IBR, all of that whole unit has to be in compliance with R1 through R7 by that date. Now, the rest of the 50% of the folks that have more than one IBR, you're looking at January 1st, 2030. That's for R1 through R7. Now, R8 is 9 calendar months after the effective date, and you roll that out, and that becomes January 1st, 2026. So we're not too far away from R8. And so I think that's important to remember that for sure it is based on BES IBRs, and it's based on the effective date of the standard. So that's key in this, and it's on or before. So if you have an IBR that's in commercial operation on or before April 1st, this slide is pertinent to you. So if we go to the next slide, we start looking at after the effective date. So after April 1st, if you got a commercial operation designation on April 2nd, this is applicable to you. Now, it's a little interesting. You only have 15 calendar months to do R1 through R7. From July 1st, 2026, you are supposed to be 100% compliant with any unit that comes into commercial operation after April 2nd. Now, as you move down the path, the commercial operations date, you'll have to be effective and in compliance on that commercial operation date on July 2nd. So if you come in to commercial operation, you're designated July 2nd, 2026 for that designation, you're to be 100% compliant with R1 through R7. Now, R8 is 9 calendar months after the effective date. So here again, we're looking at January 1st, 2026. Think about that. That's the effective date of that standard. So ultimately, if you're in play after that time frame, R8 will be officially here to be in compliance for that. So that's for BES IBRs. Let's go to the other side of the coin, the Cat 2s, the non-BES. This is on or before May 15th. Notice the change there. It's not the effective date of the standard. Why is May 15th chosen? Well, if you think about what Mark Rogers is doing, and I think he's maybe talking after us, May 15th is kind of the drop dead date for registration of Cat 2 generators, or at least the first one. So you got to start looking at what that implementation plan talks about. If on or before that date, you're in commercial operations on or before 5/15/2026, you have to be 100% compliant with the standard on January 1st, 2030 for R1 through R7. For R8, you have to be in compliance by April 1st, 2027. Remember, this is non-BES IBRs on or before May 15th. So it's a very niche crowd there, so to speak. Let's go to the next slide. Now this is for after May 15th. So this is in the future IBRs. Hit commercial operations after 5/15. You have 15 calendar months for R1 through R7. That date, it comes into play 7/1/2026, and the commercial operations date will affect those that come into play after 7/1/2026. R8 is very specific to being April 1st, 2027. So you actually almost have a shorter time frame. Well, you do effectively have a shorter time frame to be compliant after this date. And that's kind of the planned thought process in a lot of the IBR 901 operations, capturing the folks that are already in play and looking towards the future on those who are projected to be out there. PRC 28 is all about disturbance equipment, having a sequence of event data, fault recording data, data disturbance information. So it's important to understand how it affects you, what's happening. I would say generally most entities are going to be very, very cognizant of the opportunity that they need to capture information associated with disturbances for their unit. Cat 2s are some new animals out there, and that's why some of this was played out to be separated for those Cat 2s. And I think that may be the end of my presentation. We can check. I think there may be a slide after this. It may say questions.
No, I think this is the end for you. While we're waiting to see if any questions come in, we do have someone with their hand raised.
Okay.
So if we want to go ahead, Megan, and allow them to unmute.
Thank you, Millie. This is friend of us, Kappa Gantula from Arrivon Energy. I know it may not be the right time to ask this question or make this comment, but going back to the cold weather stuff, Curtis, I think we all kind of received an email from NERC, kind of like an announcement that says for this initial reporting period, entities will have until June 15th to complete this reporting for BES units. So can we take that approach or no? Because that email clearly says we have until the 15th to make the submission.
I saw that too, and that's why I stuck to. If you have questions, send them. We had that discussion, and I think part of the situation here is when we were having that discussion, which was just last week, they had less than 5% of the industry in there. So I did see an email. I did see the language tweaked just a little bit.
Yeah, I put that language in the chat just for, just for, I don't know if it goes to everybody, but I did put that in the chat.
Yeah, I don't see it, but.
No, that was received privately by Megan and I, so. No.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry about that. I don't, there was no way for me to put it out to everybody, but there is an email out there. I mean, I think we made some submissions and we are continuing to make the rest of the submissions through June 15th. That's the approach we're taking based on the email we got. So sorry if you're looking for all the data by the 15th, Curtis. At least you won't have it from us.
No, I appreciate that. I knew that based on the conversation with NERC, that may very well occur. But I was told, stick to the website. I know what the website says, but that was sent on the 8th, right? I believe.
Yes. No, it was on the 9th, Friday the 9th.
9th.
And
okay.
It came from Sandy Shiflett at NERC.
Yeah.
So,
entities will have, it's very interesting the way they wrote that.
Yep.
I'll put it in the chat if that's okay, Bailey. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
We did get a hot tip just come in that it says, do not wait to upload the cold weather DR spreadsheet in the ERO portal. There have been unexpected errors and entities are having to resubmit. So definitely be proactive about that so you're not stuck last minute trying to get your spreadsheet in. So
human nature always says wait until the
yes.
latest. On April 15th, turn in your IRS is not the time to do it. I know. That's why they leave the post office open till midnight.
All right. I think that is all for you today, Curtis. We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Mark and Abby.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Millie. I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on this, and Mark's going to step in if I have any coughing attacks. But
I just want to say one thing, folks. May 15th, 2025 is the start of the last year of the project. So here we go. We're going to finish it up. Go ahead.
thanks, Mark. No, I appreciate that. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to talk more about IBRs. Our agenda for today includes providing information related to the progress of the NERC IBR work plan that was just filed with FERC last week. We'll also talk about how the IBR registration timeline is progressing and discuss the status of us sending out the Category 2 RFIs and evaluating the documentation that we're receiving back here at WECC. Also, WECC has information to share on outreach activities, as well as ensuring everyone is aware of all current resources out there. Next slide. And I'm sorry, I didn't notice that you didn't progress. Next slide. Yeah, so that's today's agenda. And here we go. So regarding, sorry, I need to follow along here. The latest quarterly NERC work plan update was published a little over a week ago and reflects a decrease in the expected number of Category 2 assets. Specifically, the number of Category 2 assets has dropped across the regions as a whole by 82 assets. The number has changed from 863 to 781 currently as of May. And that is a total amount of expected gross nameplate generation. The decrease is 3,600 MVA approximately. The determined reduction was of the number of assets was based on multiple reasons, which include either projects being canceled or the projects are actually scheduled to reach COD later than the expected registration date of May 15th, 2026. Also, some resources have been identified as Category 1, being BES IBRs based on the nameplate rating aggregation at the point of interconnect. So that's just something to be aware of, as well as additionally, some reported wind facilities are actually type wind or type 2 wind. So those turbines do not meet the registration criteria as an IBR. Also, it turns out that some of the resources, as expected, were incorrectly reported as possible Category 2. So those are items that are being discovered during our evaluation. And yes, so directly WECC has seen examples of all these in our region specifically. As you could probably tell, if you look at both last quarter and this quarter, our numbers have not changed very much as far as the number of assets and the expected MVA. And part of that is our entity candidates have been good about letting us know if there's additional assets that need to be evaluated as possible Category 2. So we do appreciate that honesty. So thank you for coming to the table. As far as the progress of the Category 2s in our regions from an RFI perspective, we have sent out over 200, RFIs pertaining to 200 assets, I should say. And we've received RFI responses for about 130 assets, and we've completed evaluations for 27. And 25 of those have been determined to be Category 2 at this time. So more to come on that front. Next slide, please. So as Mark mentioned, we are in the transitional phase. So we are going to phase 3, where we're starting to move over to additional outreach activities and the registration process. This stage will include enhancements to the registration tool, which is known as CORS. I know most of y'all on this call are familiar with that system. The main enhancement that's going to occur is for the generator owner and the generator operator functions. They will be referred to in the system as GO Category 1, GOP Category 1, GO Category 2, and GOP Category 2. Internal testing is scheduled to take place in June, and the enhancements are scheduled to be in production hopefully by July, but no later than August. WECC and the other regions are currently preparing to register a certain amount of assets each month. As you guys are aware, WECC has the largest amount of assets to register, which will start occurring in August 2025. WECC is looking to register around 40 assets a month, starting again in August. And this will include new registrations that will have a new NERC and CRID, and some of these assets that are being reported will be added to an existing registration that already has a NERC ID. But in either case, we will need to have NERC issue a NERC registration letter to identify them as Category 2 assets. So in both cases, regardless if you're going to be a new registration or adding Category 2s, the common future effective date will be May 15th, 2026. One thing to also mention is that the publicly posted NERC compliance registry matrix that will not be officially published to reflect a new Category 2 and Category 2 GO and a GOP registration until May 15th, 2026. The staggered, excuse me, let me just get a sip of water. All right. The staggered registration approach will help the regions and NERC complete the needed registration activities by the May 2026 deadline. So next slide. I know we've shown this slide before, but I wanted to provide a quick review based on a conversation I recently had. I'm not sure who I was talking with, but they mentioned that they get their cats confused when it comes to IBR registration. So in summary, I just wanted to mention that NERC, GO, and GOP registration process that already applies to assets that fall under inclusion 4 of the BES definition, which of course are dispersed power producing resources that aggregate to a total capacity greater than 75 and have a common point of connection at a voltage of 100 kV or above. These are the registrations that are considered Category 1s. So for the new Category 2s, the registration criteria applies to entities that own, maintain, or operate non-BES inverter-based generating resources that either have or contribute to an aggregate nameplate capacity of greater or equal to 20 MVA and have a common point of connection at a voltage greater than or equal to 60 kV. At the end of the presentation, we'll briefly discuss the guidance documents that are out there that will help entities determine this as well. So next slide. So I'll give you all an opportunity to read the definition of IBRs. I'm sure y'all have seen this before, but it just seems appropriate to go ahead and just touch on this since it directly ties, as Curtis kind of already mentioned, into the standard projects related to FERC Order 901. Another reason why I wanted to share this slide is to point out that not only only type 3 and type 4 wind are considered IBRs. If it's a type 1 or type 2 wind they are not inverter based and they're not going to meet the category 2 registration criteria. So those are conversations we need to have. WECC and the other regions are finding some wind facilities that are falling into type 1 and type 2 buckets, which will not be registered as category 2s. Next slide. So WECC wanted to circle back on the documentation that's being requested as part of the RFI submission. In some instances, we're receiving complete packages with all the requested information, which is appreciated. However, there's been instances where additional RFIs are needing to be sent out. And so we wanted just to take this opportunity to kind of touch on this a little more. So the operational one-line diagrams should include the IBR resource, which includes the collection system and feeders at the point of interconnection, as well as the operation and maintenance agreements or third-party agreements. If they exist, we need those. But there are instances where you're not going to have them, right? So if you're both the generator owner and operator, those agreements may not exist. Also, from an interconnection agreement perspective, we need every single agreement so we can have all the information in hand. So both the original and any amendments, as well as we need to understand if there's a discrepancy in the documentation that you're presenting to us. So if the nameplate rating and the inverter information is not matching up on the one lines in the interconnection agreement, please include, a summary of that information. That way we don't have to issue another RFI. It will also need a completed ERO GOP asset form, which an example of this form is on the next slide. All right, I'm going to try one more time. Here we go. I think I'm back in business. If not, I'm going to tag you in, Mark. So the specific tab required with the ERO Enterprise GOP verification form is 4B Category 2 GOP assets. And we do understand, especially as a newer entity, this information, gathering all the information for the fields is a little overwhelming. But we are seeing a lot of blank fields being presented, especially like entity mapping information. So if you are unsure of the information that you need to provide, just reach out to us and we'll have that conversation. We'd be happy to, save that extra step and give you the information you need so you could give us a complete response package. Next slide. So thanks for bearing with me, by the way. From a main tracking perspective, we just kind of wanted to point out that WECC is keeping this information, of course, in our internal master tracking sheet for category 2s, but we're also keeping an internal dashboard to give us a quick overview of the status of our findings. So we just kind of wanted to share the main items that we're providing a summary view on. So, of course, the registration determination of our reviews, as well as if that asset will be under a new registration or added to an existing registration, who the owner is, the fuel type, the nameplate rating, the voltage level at the point of interconnect. And again, this is the key. We need the information as such as your balancing authority, your transmission owner, your planning coordinator, and of course, your generator operator. And we're also keeping track of the commercial operation state. Next slide. All right, we're getting towards the end here. So just kind of wanted to give y'all an overview of some of the questions that we've received on more than one occasion. So we thought it would be good to share with the bigger group, if you will. But we are getting reports that these generator owners of Category 2 assets do, of course, have a generator operator if they are currently online, but they are looking at possibly having a different generator operator. So it would be appreciated if you would share that information within the asset form and go ahead and put the current GOP under column G, as in George, but make note in the notes section on column AB if there will possibly be a generator operator change in the future. And then also we've been receiving requests as far as reporting in the GAD system, which is also known as Generation Availability Data System. So we just kind of wanted to provide this summary here that tells you that you don't have to report in GADS until May 2026 once you're registered, unless you're already a NERC registered entity and have solar plants that are greater than 20 MVA or greater. So just kind of wanted to provide that information. Next slide. And then some of the information that we are trying to include in our evaluation, again, information such as the holding company, the physical address, if there's voltage schedule information, and we need to determine the correct inverters and the nameplate rating information. So those are things to keep in mind and are appreciated. Next slide. And this just kind of goes over activities, and Mark may have some information to add here, but basically WECC has completed its first outreach session, which occurred earlier this month, and they're going to conduct future sessions with all the entities that have been identified as having assets that will be registered as Category 2s. And Mark, I'm going to go ahead and let you provide more information on that training.
Mark, I think you're on mute.
You're absolutely right, Maylee. Thank you very much. So from a NERC perspective, at the ORCG level, we're setting up to have a new webinar, another webinar in July. So you know, there's an opportunity there. But as far as like Abby mentioned, the additional training sessions for Category 2 is that we will provide monthly as the Category 2 entities. Every month we will have a webinar, and you will get an invitation to join that webinar as you register and we complete the analysis. And I'll go to the next slide.
And I could probably step back in, Mark. I just needed a second. Thank you.
Okay.
So appreciate the support there. So here we just kind of wanted, and I know most people are familiar with these resources, but there are a lot of great resources out there. Some are WECC specific, you know, submitting a GOP application. Right now that presentation is geared more towards Category 1s, but it will be updated for Category 2s as soon as the enhancements are put in place. But please continue to look at this website. We also have NERC guidance documents highlighted nicely in gold here. So those are items to look at. The first two are the ones that will help you determine if you need to register as possibly a Category 1 or a Category 2. Please consider reviewing that information if you haven't already. Also on the right side of this slide, this is more towards current registrations. We just wanted to mention that our process has changed a little bit. We used to ask for a registration questionnaire to be filled out. That form has been retired, yay. But we do have a new form that is the registration form, and basically it provides an overview of your facility. So it also gives you a chance to check off to make sure you're giving us all the documents we need. So it eliminates the back and forth between the entities and the region. So we have noticed that it's giving us the ability to process these applications quicker. And I think the entities have enjoyed having that document to help them as well. So thank you for that. And then next slide. All right, so as far as resources, just kind of wanted to point you to the NERC registration website, a wealth of knowledge and additional links to be had there. As a newer entity, please look at the letter from Howard Google. It's an introduction letter to NERC and the ERO Enterprise, as well as EISAC. That was issued back in November 2024, but still a good resource to look at. The quick reference guide, the IBR guide, will give you a great summary of everything that's going on with the project. So, and then here, just wanted to highlight, as a new entity, onboarding information, these 3 documents, 2 are ERO related and 1 is WECC specific. So please look at those if you haven't. Next slide. So you probably couldn't have heard me very well earlier, but I was sincere in saying that WECC registration is here to support. So any questions you have about the RFI request or just in general about registration process, please reach out to us. We're here for you. And that's all I had. If there's any questions.
We do have a hand raised, I believe. Megan, if you want to go ahead and allow that question to come through.
Oh, thank you, Melly and Megan.
Yeah.
Hi, Abby and Mark. Thank you very much for this presentation. This is Srinivas Kapagantula from Arivan Energy. If I could go back to the slide where you had the GADS information, I forget what slide number it was, but I just wanted to confirm one thing. On GADS reporting is actually required for entities that are currently registered with NERC. Correct. So if you have a 20 megawatt project or 25 megawatt project that's not registered, you don't have to report.
That's correct.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking the question is I'm hearing otherwise from NERC, and we're being asked to report on some of the 20 megawatt projects too. And to me, that's in direct contradiction of the rules of procedure, section 1600, that say you have to be registered.
So if you're being contacted by NERC and you're saying it's unregistered facility?
Yes. They will be
Okay.
Cat 2 at some point after May 15, 2026, but they're not currently. And yet we're being asked to report on GADS.
Are they affiliated with the
With the BES.
yes, do they have BES?
So in other words, like solar and then battery.
Oh, solar and yeah, I mean they are, but none of them are currently registered though.
But if they are registered, if the parent company is registered, then that's why they're being contacted.
Yeah.
I don't even think we're in that situation, because our registration strategy is every project registers on its own.
Okay.
We
So
can take this offline.
Yeah,
Sure.
sounds like a good question. We'll forward over to you guys.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to forward you some emails that I have. But
that'd be perfect.
yeah, great, thank you.
All right. We did get a couple questions related to how many new Cat 2 entities will be coming on. Do you have that number or an estimate?
We don't quite have that number yet. It will be somewhere in the ballpark of probably about 125 to 150.
Okay.
But that's a ballpark right now. And as it was earlier that Abby spoke about the numbers changing. They change every day almost as we go through because of the what we learn about an entity. So
Great. And one final question in our last 15 seconds is the COD needed for Cat 2 IBRs that are already in production today. It was not in the spreadsheet.
Should be.
So the GeoGeoP asset form has a slot. I'd have to go back and look at the exact registration information, which may be.
Yeah,
ahead,
it
Mark.
says registration effective date, doesn't it? Abby?
It does. And so the COD may be put in there, and some individuals are put in the May 15th, 2026.
Right.
Sounds like if they have questions, they should reach out.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you everyone for presenting. Megan, if you could drop our last slide up for us. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our presenters. We will see you back here on June 19th for the next one of our reliability and security oversight updates. Have a good afternoon, everyone.